Isn't it?
44.
Hello, and welcome to the Inside EVs podcast for February the 5th, 2021. This is episode number 44. Our top stories today: Tesla semi-production could hit 2,500 units in 2021. That's this year. Apple may be betting billions on Kia, and the Jeep Gladiator 4xe plug-in hybrid gets the green light. I'm Dominic Yoni, Inside EV's editor and Inside EV's forum moderator. Joining us today is Tom Moloughney, Inside EV's editor and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge with Tom Moloughney. We also have Martin Lee from the EV News Daily podcast, available on all your usual podcast platforms. And of course, Kyle Connor joins us from the Out of Spec Studios family of YouTube channels. He also puts together the scintillating videos for the Inside EV's YouTube channel. Go subscribe and tap that bell icon for notifications. And if you like the podcast, please leave us a rating or maybe even a review on Apple Podcasts, which helps others discover us and spread the word about EVs. If you're watching on YouTube, we'd love a thumbs up as well. And, well, good morning. Welcome, gentlemen of the panel and ladies and gentlemen of the audience. So what do we have charging up in our driveways this week? Kyle, I believe you have something with three wheels.
Yes, you know I love three-wheelers. I have a lot of cool stuff going on this week. You know, some off-roaders that were not electric, but I do have to mention the new Land Rover Defender, which is my favorite car of 2021. Also, I have the Arcimoto FUV sitting right in the garage over here. This is pretty neat. Dominic and I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast. We rode them in Key West. And we had a fairly okay experience, but they were really early units and like they just weren't really screwed together that well. So I was
and they'd been beaten for like 6-8 months by tourists and everything on the streets of Key West.
Yeah, I don't know. They didn't really have that many miles on them. Anyway, okay. But we reached out to Arcimoto. We said, is this representative of a final production build that we should base our commentary and review off of? And they said no. And I was like, okay, well, we just wasted all this time going to Key West then. We did have a good day, though.
It was a good time, yeah.
We couldn't post any of our content because it's apparently not representative. So they sent us one here to Colorado for a couple weeks. And I was like, hey, while it's here, let's get our friend Sean Mitchell in it. Let's get our friends at TFL in it. So it's going to go from us for 2 weeks. I'm going to drop it off at Sean Mitchell's house. He'll have it for a week. And then it'll go to our friends at TFL Studios. They'll have it for 2 weeks. And then it goes back to Oregon. They seriously could not have dropped this off in a worse color combination.
It is a bit.
Absolutely terrible. I don't know what they're thinking. It's got red wheels. Like, if they know anything about me and us as reviewing, they would not drop this off. But that's okay. They were really excited about it over the phone. I'm like, all right, well, the color doesn't matter. You can order it in whatever color you want. So we got this thing. We have a new TikTok Out of Spec Studios. It's done almost 300,000 views on TikTok now.
Wow.
With just a 0 to 60 on the Arcimoto. So nice. People seem to be interested in it, and I like it so far. And then more things about what's going on tonight, or I should say after this podcast this afternoon, we are going to a company called Lightning E-Motors in Loveland, Colorado, where they take box trucks, vans, buses, and convert them to electric. I didn't know these people existed. I was out reviewing something. We were doing a road test, and I'm driving by. I'm like, wow, all these trucks have engines out of them. Whoa, a DC fast charger. What is this? And so I just called them up. I said, hey, we're here. I had no idea you were here. We're doing a story on you. We're coming. So we're coming today to go shoot a story on them.
Nice. Hey, so what was the 0 to 60? Can you say?
So, yeah, I don't think we did not do like an instrumented representation, but it's rated at like 7.5 to 60. We did 2 people, 59% state of charge. It was really cold out yesterday. I mean, we were riding this thing. It was 22 degrees Fahrenheit outside, but it's got heated seats and heated handlebars. It really wasn't bad. I just wish I brought gloves. Right. You can see my neighbor there laughing at us. So, it's just
no gloves, man.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's very split. Alyssa won't go near it. I said, let's go to dinner on this thing. And she's too embarrassed to get on it. I love it. I love weird EVs and cars and stuff. And so I actually think it's uber useful. Like, I'm going to do a whole video just running errands with this because it's so neat to like zig in and out of traffic. The only problem is you have to watch out for people because all people are doing on the road is taking video of you and they're not paying attention to driving. So we almost got crashed into like 6 times because everyone's looking at this thing.
Right. It's so tropical looking.
Yeah, and we're in like snowy Colorado. Anyway, we're going to do so many cool tests with it, some silly, some not. I really do think there are specific use cases where this is incredibly useful. I also think it could be kind of a fun toy. I mean, you can see Taycan on the back there in this video. He's our videographer. He was like, yeah, I'm not getting on that thing. This is stupid. And then he rides it, and he's like, oh, you're getting in the back, Kyle. I'm driving. So,
right. See, that's where it goes, right?
Fun. Yeah,
it's like when we were in Key West and talking to the folks that run the rental center down there, who are really nice folks. And if you're in Key West, you know, I would suggest checking it. It's on the little island just before the Key West island. Anyway, what was?
Let me ask you a question, Kyle. Where's that legal to drive on? Like, what roads can you drive that on?
Anything. This 80 miles an hour almost.
Okay.
I'm going to take that thing all the way to Denver. We're going to do Denver's our main city. We live an hour north here in Fort Collins. We're going to do an airport run in the Arcimoto.
Jason Leiter is asking if the front wheels lean on this. So that's a no.
Yes.
Not yet.
Oh, you mean like this?
Yeah,
no,
like this. But the Arcimoto did just acquire. Was it Tilting Motorworks or something? Who have that. For I guess that probably that technology, and I expect to see that on the future models, and I think that's going to make it even more fun and dynamic to ride because you lean into turns now, but it's still got the 3-wheel stability. I don't know. I'm pretty excited about the leaning thing.
You know, I think it's kind of interesting. We do have to we'll do a full review. There's so much to talk about with this Arcimoto, but one of the things I think is kind of I can't tell if I like it or hate it, but it has all the buttons for traction control, ABS, stability control, but none of it is engaged. So like right now, it's just you and the tires. And, you know, they keep talking about how this thing's super stable. I'm not totally convinced yet. We're going to have to take it around the track and see. It definitely is safe enough to drive around town. I haven't had it above 70 miles an hour, but Taycan brought it up to 75 with me on the back, and I thought I was going to die. So, but also that's mainly because Taycan's driving. He drives a normal car at 75, and I start freaking out. But I really wish they would put more emphasis on braking, ABS, stability control, traction control, and torque vectoring. These are all things that it will get, I guess, through over-the-air software updates, which is nice. But I think they're sort of needed now.
It would make.
But we'll see.
I've
only ridden it. Yeah, I've only ridden it 12, 13 miles, something like this. So, but I gotta say, tons of fun, and I really think there are specific use cases where this is really an exceptional tool to use. I think it's kind of a neat idea.
And one thing, James in his minis asked, do you need a motorcycle license? Do you need to wear a helmet or just a regular driver's license? What works?
Depends on the state. Depends on the state. I honestly don't know the laws in Colorado. I know we don't have a helmet law for.
Just take it out. Who cares about the law?
I mean, you know my style. I'm just taking it out. Like honestly, if we get pulled over, they're just going to be like, "What the hell is this thing?" More than like, "Oh, are you qualified to drive it?"
No, they're not. If you get pulled over, they're going to be like, "That's the guy warning everybody about getting speeding tickets on the street." That's what they're going to say. Yeah.
Actually, I ran into a couple cops who have seen that video, and they were really applauding us for that. They hate them just as much as we do.
Oh, yeah, right. That's true, right? They probably do.
Because it's a third party company. It's we have this speed camera van that stops on my street. I run out with that sign right there that says "slow down" because there's a speed camera catching your speed. Totally wrong. Anyway, diverging conversation. You can let's talk about what Tom has in the driveway because this is more interesting, I think.
So before we jump to Tom, I still gotta beat on Kyle a little bit. So you notice in the beginning he said he drove the Defender and it's his favorite car of 2021. That's why we love Kyle. He loves what he's doing so much. Okay, we're like 4 weeks into 2021. Let's keep a counter on how many cars were his favorite car of 21 as the year goes on. That's the last I'll say about that.
Hold on. I love the Defender so much, I'm actually going to order one.
Wow.
You were going to order a Polestar. You were going to order an XC40. You were going to every car you drove. You drove. You said, "I love this car. I'm going to order it."
You're absolutely correct.
That is true. That is true.
Right, Martin? Thanks.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
However, the XC40 or the Polestar, I view that as one car basically, was going to be for Alyssa. She now drives the Model 3. She doesn't need anything different. I'm out of a car and I don't think electric works for my situation, towing up in the mountains and things like this. So the Defender really is, I think, a sweet machine.
Yeah,
And it is. It absolutely is. I'm not putting it down. I'm just saying you fall in love with the vehicles that you get on loans. And
some of them I hate.
Yeah, not all of them. Not all of them.
Yeah.
You're 100% right.
Yeah.
So we're going to have
a
candy for a while.
Oh well, wait, hold on. Should we talk about candy? Can they even sell cars? No. You know what candy's doing? I think it's a total sham. Actually, I'm really not sold on this company actually selling cars. They won't get back to me anymore. I'm the only one to review one. We have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views on their videos. They won't call us back anymore. No idea why. Very positive reviews. I just think they can't sell their cars here. So
they're still advertising. I see Candy America ads.
Yep.
Well, look, they're going to be neighborhood electric vehicles. That'll be capped at 35 miles an hour. Who wants that? I think as long as you can remove the chip, you're fine. I love the Candy. I want to buy one. I want to do a whole bunch of content. I just want them to call me back. But they fired their PR agency, so they're dealing with like 2 people at the company who are nice people, I know, by the way, but. They can't tell us when they can sell cars. They can't tell us if they're going to pass crash test ratings. They can't answer any investor questions. And it just seems so off and so weird to have a promise of selling cars in December. Now we're in February. The cars are sitting in a parking lot and they're not able to deliver them. I just think this is kind of odd.
True. It is kind of, to me, it's always been an odd company. But anyway, Taycan 4S.
Yeah, so Porsche dropped off a Taycan 4S at my house last week, and then we promptly got 37 inches of snow over 3 days. The way these media loans go, you get the car for a specific period of time. You can't extend it because other people are scheduled right after you. So I drew a bad card there because I only got to drive it for like a day and a half. Then I couldn't drive it for 3 days, then another 2 days. But I still was able to do a 70 mile an hour cold weather range test. It was about, I cold soaked the battery outside overnight. It was like under 10 degrees all night. I got in it. It was 14 degrees when I had it out. Went on the New Jersey Turnpike, drove it up and down at 70 miles an hour, was able to go 213 miles. Now, the Taycan 4S with the Performance Plus battery is rated at 203 miles per charge. So, I mean, this is just another. Kyle's done multiple Taycan range tests in warmer weather. He even did a cold weather, but not this cold. So now we have 3 Taycan range tests in like perfect conditions, in 40-degree temperatures, and now, in like the worst conditions with snow tires on it, by the way. Right. Porsche put new snow tires on the car right before I got it. So it was 14 degrees, snow tires, and it still beat the EPA range rating by 10 miles. There is no other electric car out there that almost anything you do to the damn thing, other than drive it up a mountain, it will beat the EPA range rating. So, right. I know we talk a lot about that here, and it's been beaten to death on other channels. Kyle and I, for the amount, I've driven Taycans over probably 1,200 miles now. Kyle's driven them thousands of miles across the country and everything. I cannot get the vehicle to not hit its EPA range rating. So, that's done and established. The Taycan's not a 200 mile range electric vehicle. It's much more than that. I was also able to do a DC fast charge test. I wasn't able to get the battery at the optimal temperature, which is about, I think, 88 degrees, right, Kyle? I think it's 31 degrees Celsius.
Yeah,
it's the perfect temperature. Yeah. That's what Porsche told me, I think, when we were in Europe, 31 degrees Celsius, which is 88 degrees. And unfortunately, even though I set the nav for the DC fast charge station, it was warming the battery up, but it didn't warm it up quick enough. And I only got the battery up to like 75 degrees. So the most I got was about 200 kilowatts. That's what it peaked at. But I still charged it from 5% to 90% in 37 minutes. That's, everybody that has a Taycan isn't going to roll into the charging station with the perfect battery temperature like Kyle does. He obsesses over, the charging rate. Well, he has to if he's on, trying to break records and so forth and so on. But the average Taycan driver is not going to obsess over that. They're just going to pull into they might set the navigation if they're on a really long drive and they want to speed things up. So I think this was a good test because it was like, okay, if the battery's not at the perfect temperature, about how long is it going to take? And little longer than 30 minutes, it went from 5% to 90%. As far as I'm concerned, that is excellent. On a long road trip, to stop for a half an hour to get, over 80% of your battery refilled, the car is a road tripper, period. That end the story, not that Kyle hasn't proved that already. But even in the coldest temperatures with winter tires on, you can take the Taycan anywhere. So we're going to have 3 videos coming out of my time with this coming up on Inside EVs. The 70 mile an hour range test, the DC fast charge where I record the whole session, talk about the different, when it ramps up, when it ramps down. And then I'm also doing an incredibly deep dive Porsche Taycan charging video. It's like everything you need to know about charging the Porsche Taycan. Now, Right now it's an hour long. I have to edit it down a little bit more because I want to get it to around 50 minutes. But that's how much of a deep dive it is. I try to go into everything any newbie that doesn't know anything about electric cars might ask about the Taycan. Charging on level 1, charging on level 2, the different chargers you could use on level 2, DC fast charging, everything. So those 3 videos are going to become, that's part of it there. How to charge your Taycan on a Tesla charging station. That's part of the charging video with the adapters you use. I was charging it at a local hotel, and that's the Tesla Tap Mini adapter that just came out. So look for those 3 videos coming up on the Taycan, mostly charging and range test stuff.
Tom, you're absolutely correct about the Taycan, first off, being a road tripper. We proved that, but just being a charging monster. Out of any EV currently on sale, it has one of the best charging curves, but also the highest speeds. Tesla, everyone's like, oh, well, it's only 20 kilowatts more than a Model 3, but it's so much less efficient. I'm like, no, you're not understanding. The Model 3 can do 250 kilowatts for like 20% of its charging cycle. This can hold 270 kilowatts from 0 to 55, or right around 53. So Tom has a cold weather charging 5 to 95. I have a 0 dead to complete on warm weather on a new one. I haven't posted it yet. It's somewhere in my hard drives. That was like 20 minutes, less than quoted, 20 minutes, 0 to 80%. It was like, right around 2021. And just maybe we should combine those. Be like, here's a cold weather and here's the ideal. Because in September of 2019, they updated the Taycan to charge better. Mm-hmm. And so the car we used for the Cannonball was a pre-September 2019. They claim it had the software. Maybe it did. But we were charging that car in 4 degrees Fahrenheit in Colorado on the Cannonball, and it was doing 265 kilowatts. Like, it's just a monster.
I would recommend people go watch that video. So I can blame Kyle for 2 things this week. Firstly, for TikTok. So I downloaded the TikTok app because he's now a TikTok star, and realized that I joined it when it was called something else. It used to be called Musical.ly.
I never knew it had a history.
Yeah, it used to be called Musical.ly. And our friend's 12-year-old started making Musical.ly videos. So I downloaded it and joined like 4 or 5 years ago just to keep an eye on, like, has she locked down the settings? Like, oh, weirdo's looking at this. And it was all fine. So when I downloaded the app, it was like, hey, you're a member already. And I'm like, this is a bit weird. I'd never posted anything. So I'm probably like one of the longest people on TikTok and never posted. But so Carl's got me hooked on TikTok now. I keep watching people dance in my spare time. And also, go and watch that 2-hour Cannonball video. I started it off as you tend to do with YouTube videos, and thought, I'll watch kind of half an hour of this, and then I'll catch up later. And I watched the whole 2 hours, so it's...
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I know, someone's got to. And plenty of people have. And it's like you're on the edge of your seat because you've put all the charging stops in for the Cannonball, and sometimes you'll get a fast speed, and then at the next charging station it'll be 100 and something. You're like, let's move state, and it's like, let's plug into the next one. And that's it got kind of addictive. I wanted to know how fast, but I was really impressed with how fast the Taycan charged when it played nicely with Electrify America, and that was the caveat, which is, yes, it charges quickly, but you did have a hotline through to EA Central, and they were like,
well, look, we should talk about this because I've never actually spoken about it since our stuff went live. We've kind of just we did the Cannonball thing, proved it, and let's move on. But so many people still have questions, and I was thinking maybe I'd do a follow-up video. I'm not quite sure. We had some support from Electrify America ahead of time. Tom knows that we let them know about the drive. We let them know the stops we were going to. I don't think they did anything about it. I really don't. I think we would have had the same exact experience. All that did was clog up time in the car on the phone with support teams that were, the people are great. Certainly they were trying, I think, to get us across the country. But all they were doing was plug into station number 2 or 3. It was their recommendations.
But they could tell you that they've seen successful charges in the last day or few hours. So
yeah, but what we learned was it didn't matter who had charged successfully. It was a problem with the Taycan and the EA stations. And what really it is it's the Signet units. We had multiple problems, but the problem that really caused a lot of our charging issues, the overcharging, was that the Signet branded units, new and old, have a charger creep issue where if the car's requesting, let's just say 600 amps, the charger may give the car 620, 625 amps. And some cars like the e-tron let it go up to 170 kilowatts. That's why I've seen e-tron charge at 174 at a Signet and then fault out. I'm like, how is that possible? And it's because Signets provide more power than requested. And what really we needed to do was to pull into the charger with the Taycan thermal throttling the battery pack so that it would request less power than basically it would still get 20 amps more than it was asking for, but it wouldn't shut off because it wasn't more than 270 kilowatts. And yeah, I don't think EA could have done anything about that on our drive. They claim they made no changes throughout the middle of our drive. We just learned how to optimize the car better. I wish we knew all this ahead of time. We could have shaved an hour off our time, 2 hours off our time.
Do you think they learned something from your trip as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that, look, tons of data. I don't think you're having Taycan owners pull in consistently 27 times between 0 and 4%.
Yeah.
With a red hot battery. And then change. And we actually have to get places. The thing with that I like about cannonballing, the electric side is I don't like the speeds. I'm not into all of that. What I like is pushing technology. But I think it has a real world use case, which is, of course, no one's driving New York to Los Angeles nonstop, but you might drive North Carolina to New York City up to Vermont or Boston, and you want your charging to last the least amount of time possible if you're waiting with the car. And that means plugging in and knowing that it works. It means getting maximum speeds whenever possible. And there is so much optimization that automakers need to do, that charging providers need to do. And I really think not even Tesla has it fully nailed, because I pulled up to a version 3 supercharger in my Model 3 the other day, and it was preconditioning for the last 30 miles of my trip, but it only did 140 kilowatts, which means that my car didn't precondition warm enough to accept. It should know it's going to a version 3 and run up to 40 degrees Celsius. So yeah, I just think that this all needs more focus, more optimization, and we are pretty far away based off of the speeds of change that I've noticed in the industry, pretty far away from this being easy. I think this is going to be the biggest problem to electric vehicle adoption is going to be infrastructure, DC fast charging, and things like this. Because home charging is easy. If you're not going anywhere, you just plug it in at home. That's the best.
Right.
I agree. But one thing I'd like to just remind everyone, even though we've been doing EVs for a long time, this is still we're still in the extremely early stages of infrastructure, with the networks communicating with all the different OEMs. I mean, Kyle and I gets a chance to talk to people at Electrify America, and, sometimes they'll be frustrated that certain manufacturers aren't really partnering with them as well as they should to make sure that all this stuff gets ironed out. Tesla's incredible advantage is that they are vertically integrated. They do everything. They make the charging equipment that goes in the car. They make the car. They write the software. They make the chargers. That's an incredible advantage over a company like Electrify America or ChargePoint or EVgo that doesn't build the equipment, doesn't write the software for it, doesn't make the cars, but yet they have to put it all together and make this communication process work with dozens and dozens of different manufacturers that have all different onboard electronics and 4 different vendors that are making their equipment. Now it's 3. They eliminated 1. So I know people say, well, I'm not making excuses for Electrify America. The damn thing should work. I get you. You're right. But we're still only a couple years into this, and there's not a high utilization rate where they're getting thousands and thousands of Taycans and Audis plugging in every day where they can get all this data. So like goes back to what Kyle said before that, we communicate with Electrify America and help them. I do the same thing. And I can tell you this, and I think Electrify America would tell you this. Insight EVs has probably provided them with more insight than like any other entity that is involved with electric vehicles at this point. Because Kyle and I are constantly emailing, talking to their engineers, saying, look up session number 526, 523, whatever, tell me what happened there. And like, at first they were maybe a little standoffish but now they're like, okay, these guys are out there driving every kind of EV there is, driving the hell out of them, charging them from 0 to 100 and everything. They're almost like we should be paying them to do this. So now they open up to us and we're helping them improve the network for everyone else. That's how
they're not paying us. That's the key thing.
They're not paying us.
They're not paying us.
We don't even get free charging. So everybody knows that. Like I pay when I'm doing when I was charging the Taycan now, it was on my personal account. I don't even get a discounted rate, nothing like that.
Same here. I just pay for the Pass Plus. Even for the Cannonball, the Porsche comes with free charging. I didn't use it. I wanted to calculate the costs. Which, by the way, I don't know if we even mentioned it. We did in one interview, I think on Now You Know, with Zach and Jesse. We saved over an equivalent Porsche Panamera driving as aggressively. It was actually cheaper to drive the Taycan, which a lot of people think Electrify America is more expensive than driving a gas car. In some cases, it would be. But yeah, Tom, you're absolutely right. Look, my biggest complaint here is the Taycan is a Volkswagen product. EA is a Volkswagen product. They operate under the same brand umbrella. They have testing facilities around the world that they can vet chargers. They can get cars hot. This is all simple stuff. If some random person who lives in Colorado, can understand what cars need to go through to test the charging with different temperatures, with different speeds, with different charging hardware, for sure, they're very talented and very highly paid engineers can figure this stuff out. And it's been 2 years. I mean, the Taycan's been in the works for 7 years, 8 years inside of Porsche. They should know everything about charging. EA should have every single bit of that data, and it should work, and it doesn't. And that's the problem. Now, Tom, you had a good charging session. It sounds like it plugged up. It worked. Did it go on the first time? What was it like with your Porsche?
So one of my charging sessions, I didn't have a good experience. I plugged in at a very low state of charge, and I maxed out at 53 kilowatts. Wouldn't pull more than 53 kilowatts. So after
instead of 270 kilowatts.
Yeah, after 20 minutes, I was like, okay, I'm not waiting here, because then I had enough to make it home. But the next session I went and I used this. I was at the same site, but they have 2 350 kilowatt stations. I used the one next to it. I said, let me try this one, and it worked perfectly. So I don't know if I plugged back into that one, if it was gonna do that again. I didn't want to take a chance. But I sent all the data to Electrify America. I said, take a look at this, because it could be the car. It's not my car. It's a press loaner. Perhaps there was something going on there. We always have to consider that. But the fact that it worked the next, or a few days later on the next station, meant it was probably the station,
not the car. The interesting thing here is that we definitely give EA all of this data. We've been doing this for over a year, Tom and I, giving them every single thing, but I sort of don't know if it makes a difference. And so maybe we got to have another call with them and just be like, are you doing anything about the problems? Because my friend Chris just took an Audi e-tron towing a Zero motorcycle down from North Carolina to Florida. Really cool trip. Great long distance towing trip. There'll be a video. I hope we share it on Inside EVs, Chris Maxwell. And he arrived to multiple stations. I saw him blogging about them along the way. And multiple times did the station screens were just on like a Windows boot up screen, which, by the way, you can like browse the web on them when their info crashes, which is just insane. So like you can go in files and like it's a full like Windows PC in there. You just have to hook up a Bluetooth keyboard. and then you're good to go. So, but this should not be happening. These are problems that we should have had a year and a half ago. I get it's hard, but like at this point, I am totally annoyed that stuff just doesn't work.
If you're really, this is crunch time. Like all the EVs are coming now. Mustangs are being made en masse. I don't know if we had this as a story, but they sold like 235 or 238 or something altogether with 3 in December and a bunch in January. Those that's been delivered to customers actually, and then there's thousands they're at the dealers, ready to go. So
ID4s are coming.
Dealers that are available too. You can just skip the line because people have canceled. They showed up to dealers, and you can just go in and buy them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, so let's get some news because we're halfway through our whatever time. And yeah, okay. So
that was the most fun section of the podcast. That will get structured.
No, structure. Who needs structure? All right. So let's start with a bit from the rumor mill. According to a supposed source inside a Tesla supplier, the automaker could produce as many as 2,500 semis this year, hitting a run rate of 100 per week by December, and eventually reaching 50,000 a year, perhaps as soon as 2024. To put that into perspective, the U.S. consistently sees sales of about 190,000 units of Class 8 trucks like this a year. So 50,000 would be more than a third of that. So I would imagine this would be an international product with those production numbers. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how fast the market moves to electric. But yeah, so this news and the numbers came in a thread of tweets from Tesla enthusiast and investor Sawyer Merritt. He's at Sawyer Merritt, Tom Sawyer and Merritt with 2 R's and 2 T's. According to his source, the body will be built in Fremont, California. Final assembly will be at Giga Nevada in 2021 and eventually Giga Texas in 2022. He also says whether final assembly will take place both in Nevada and Texas or eventually just switch to Giga Texas when the factory is done is unclear. Musk said during the company's earnings call that the volume production of the Semi is on hold until Tesla can make a high volume of its 4680 cells. Right. So this is kind of nuts. We haven't really heard a lot about Semi, except we know that, Elon wants to start building it soon, but he's been constraining cells, and they need the 4680 cells for that. And they need their pilot factory to be spitting them out in high enough numbers, to make it. Because these things take like 5 times as many batteries as a car. Martin, have you heard anything about these rumors?
So I've not heard this specific, apart from everything that you've just said. But the reason it makes sense is because the Tesla Cato Road production facility making those 4680 cells is going to have an eventual capacity of 10 gigawatt hours per year when it's up and running. And that's a pilot plant, but it still becomes, according to Elon Musk on the recent earnings call, one of the top 10 cell factories or cell facilities in the world. So, and it'll be just under a third of Giga Nevada. So that's a not insignificant amount of cells coming out of a pilot line. Now you can't put them all in the skip round the back or recycle them all and try it again. There's a point at which you say, okay, we think we're there now with a limited run. So rather than we've done these cells, let's strip them down, back to the beginning, try it again. Let's put them in vehicles. And so the key is that the semi-truck is not a high volume vehicle. I don't want any Tesla engineer watching this to throw their morning coffee at the screen, but it's not that hard. It's very hard. It's not that hard to make a limited run of vehicles like this in a more bespoke setting. When you want to start making 1,000 semis a week, that's insanely hard. But if you're going to start doing 5 and then 10 and then 20 a week, you can ramp up. The numbers are much smaller than a 3 or a Y. So it does make sense. I'm not surprised about this. Look, we're only in February. We're talking about making these by the end of the year. Those cells will be taken out of California. They'll be shipped to Berlin for the first Model Ys in June, July for the structural battery pack. And then they'll also be used in the Semi. And then they're also building out those cell factories in Berlin and Austin as well.
Are the Model Ys in Berlin getting the 4680s?
Yes. So Elon Musk, or was it
I can't keep track of them all.
Zach Kirkhorn said something in the Q3 call, which alluded to it. It was, I thought it was pretty clear, but then people disagreed with me on the Q4 and end of year call last week, whenever that was, or it was in the letter. They spelt out, we will ship the cells from California to Berlin to make the first cars. So they were very specific. So absolutely.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean that there won't be other Model Ys in Berlin made with other cells. That's if we're going to talk Model Y Berlin, it doesn't mean that every car coming out of there is going to have the new cells. They've never said that. So it would seem, I don't think that's logical to have, 100 cars with this new structural battery pack because they're testing, but also we made 1,000 with these 2170s or whatever. I don't think that makes sense.
Right.
But they've never made clear that every car coming out will have, but they said that some of them will.
I mean, they're very different technology and very different kind
they're
of
entirely different cars. Well, apart from the single rear and front piece bolting onto that structural battery pack, the Model Y will look the same from the outside to the American-made one, and the Chinese-made one, but underneath, it's an entirely different car and an entirely different engineering. So they're not interchangeable. You can't think, oh, what battery should we put? Like at the minute where they're putting inside the Model 3s, the new ones, some of those are Panasonic cells, some of them are LG cells, some of them are, there's like 3 different battery suppliers now for the whether it's long range or performance. So, yeah.
Well, speaking of charging infrastructure, that's the big thing I think that's going to hold back semi as much as batteries, because, say a big company might want to buy 1,000 trucks or whatever, but why buy them if you can't charge them? You need to have that mega charger infrastructure up and running ahead of time to get the big sales.
Depends what you want to do with them. Depends if you want to go back to your depot every night, or you've got several depots where they've got charging. So there's two different uses.
I've heard that we charge Teslas at 12 kilowatts, for example, at home. That's like 48 amp, 240 volt is 11, 12 kilowatts. The Semi will have 50 kilowatt DC chargers that will be like its level 2. And those will be full charge overnight. And that's going to be relatively easy to have 30, 40, 50 kilowatt chargers at day use facilities where they're only running during the day. You can also install megawatt chargers at your loading bays. These businesses already have 480 volt 3-phase service coming right to the buildings. I actually think the charging is going to be way easier for Semi than it has been for passenger vehicles, because you know exactly where that truck is going every single step of the way. And route planning is something they're already used to doing. They do this with diesel all the time.
Yeah.
All right. And the customers that need to go long distance with the vehicles will only take delivery of them if the routes that they need already have the charging on it. There'll be plenty of customers that don't need to go cross country with these vehicles, and they'll just use them in areas where they can either charge at their depot, or maybe a couple of these megawatt chargers will be set up at depots and as like pilot productions, and those will be where the trucks run. I don't think that's a problem in the beginning. Obviously, in the long term, a lot of work's going to need to be done, but in the beginning, I don't think that's a problem for them.
But if we're actually looking at 50,000 in 3 years, that beginning is a very short period of time, I think, if they want to, because they can't just build stuff and not sell them. They have to, and then to sell them, they have to have infrastructure for all those long haul customers as well.
But remember, 50,000 trucks is still a tiny amount of trucks, Dom. You could use 50,000 trucks for local runs in the country. So I think that the infrastructure will get there, but I don't think it's going to really hold back. I think the Tesla will be able to sell as many of these as they can make to companies that don't need to drive outside of where the vehicles can charge. That's my point.
Totally agree. And from a branding perspective, what company isn't going to want the Tesla Semi, right? For just bragging rights inside of the company, from a marketing thing, everyone's going to want this. And I agree with Tom. I think even if they don't put in any charging infrastructure, they'll sell every single one they can make.
And somebody mentions other manufacturers, and there are other manufacturers, other companies making trucks, but I think Tesla's numbers are the most compelling, and design-wise as well. Just looking at it, it looks, new, futuristic. It's the desirable vehicle for sure, the desirable brand even.
Yeah, but what's interesting though is Urban here has commented that Volvo might be coming with EV trucks,
Right.
or they will be. We know they have Volvo trucks in Europe already. I've been to the Volvo truck plant here in the U.S. I'm a huge fan of Volvo trucks. I think they're the best, semi trucks on the market currently. Love their iShifts and everything. But the thing that fleets are going to really want is a singular brand. You'll notice like certain fleets like Swift, they all use Freightliner, for example, and they all use the Cascadias, and that's what they go with, and that's for maintenance. As soon as you introduce a third party, Tesla, not always known for their quality and the general scheme of things, I think these legacy truck manufacturers, can we even call them that, the existing automakers of trucks, I think they're going to have a better case at selling EV trucks than Ford, GM, or having it selling an electric car, because they already have their customer base that they can pitch to and sell and support, and everything's already set up from there. And we should reach out to Volvo. I'd love to do something with them about their electric trucks, because they have a cool test track that we could drift one around and have some fun with. So it's a really cool spot.
Man, I'd love to drive a large electric truck. I love driving like a regular truck.
I've never driven one, but I've always wanted to.
Right. I've only driven like a Class 8 like one time when I was a kid. My uncle was a driver, but I've driven like the straight box, whatever the box trucks, straight trucks, lots. But let's move on because we got a bunch of stories we need to hit. Right. So rumors. Okay. So sticking with the rumor theme. There have been rumors for years that Apple is building an EV, and now it seems like those rumors are gaining in solidity. Apple, it seems, is betting billions on Kia to produce EVs in the US. So a couple of days ago, a Korean news site published a report saying that Kia and Apple plan to sign a 4 trillion won, that's $306 billion, deal. The cash would cover development of the vehicle, as well as build a new production line at its West Point, Georgia factory. That's the only Kia factory in the country, and it's like 80 miles or so from Atlanta on the border with Alabama. It's like in between Montgomery, Alabama and Atlanta. Anyway, so production could start, they say there, as soon as 2024, so that's like 3 years away. And they also suggest that it could be built on the eGMP platform. Right. And the Kia West Point assembly plant, it could initially produce 100,000 vehicles a year. That would be the Apple car, with the potential to expand to 400,000 vehicles a year, which is, a big number. And it currently produces about 340,000 vehicles a year. So a lot of the Kias that you see on the road, they were made in America, in Georgia. So Apple car, Project Titan. Tom, you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I always expected Apple to outsource manufacturing. I never thought that they were going to build their own factory. I thought they'd reach out to someone like Magna. I honestly didn't think that they'd partner with an existing OEM, but that seems like that's where they're going. There were those rumors about Hyundai. Now they're talking to Kia. But it does make sense. If they can form that kind of partnership, they might even be able, and if they're using a lot of this, we don't know if they do use the GMP electric platform, then it would even make sense for, say, Kia dealers to service the vehicles. Kia has an existing network. They have nearly, I think, 775 dealers, just a little under 800 dealers in the U.S. They have a large footprint. I mean, they have more dealers in the U.S. than like BMW does, Mazda, Subaru, any of those OEMs. So they have a really good footprint in the U.S. and they could provide, service. Not everyone is going to go the route that Tesla's chosen with, building out service centers and doing, the Tesla Ranger service. I'm not saying that's a bad model, but I do think you're going to see some of the startups perhaps use a model, something like this, where they use some kind of an infrastructure, even if it's not an existing OEM, some kind of established infrastructure that they partner with for service, and that might make sense for Apple.
What's the reputation of Kia in the US?
Not so bad now. It used to be
getting way better. They are making some of the best vehicles. The Telluride is selling every single SUV can they make. They can make the new Sorrento's awesome. People are all about Kia. I once saw a man a year ago pull up to a drive-through in a Kia Stinger, and literally it was the best thing ever. And he looks over to the person serving him, like giving him food or whatever. He goes, "You know what kind of car I'm driving?" And he's in a Kia Stinger.
That's interesting. I know. I asked that because Apple are obviously hyper paranoid about their reputation, and that's fair enough. But they are very controlling in terms of you've got to take the phones back to the Apple store, and all their employees are like identikits. All trained the same way. Now, I like that. I'm fully in the Apple ecosystem. The phone, the watch, the iPad. I'm just signed up for it. I like it. They look nice. They work. But when you come to automotive, all of a sudden, things go wrong and things need servicing more than just can you take the back off my whizzy, beautiful, shiny little piece of glass and it's a different beast. And I've always had a question mark over what they would do in terms of cars. Just provide the software, just provide the sensor suite. If they stick an Apple badge on it, all of a sudden you've got a lot of stuff to go wrong, and that needs servicing. So if they're using Kia, I ask you about, because over here, I would say their reputation's the same. 20 years ago, not a laughing stock, but certainly a curiosity.
Cheap transportation.
Like they came in the market with, what was it, a 7 or 9 year warranty, and but a warranty that blew everyone else away, and just said, look, if it ever goes wrong, bring it back, we'll fix it. And their reputation here is pretty good now, both them and Hyundai.
Right. So it should be
exactly the same tactic here.
Okay.
So
good.
Apple needs to really, do something, differentiate, create some. Why would you buy an Apple car instead of the same kind of thing on the GM or on the Hyundai or Kia, brand? So I think Apple's going to have a lot of more focus on autonomous vehicles, and I think that's what they're spending all their time and energy on. Because they've been spending billions of dollars. They got to be doing something with it, and they're not building a bespoke chassis. Apparently, if these rumors are true, so that leaves autonomy, creating maybe an AI to help run it. I don't know. Kyle, you want to say something about that?
Yeah, Leonard has the best comment ever. And it's over here. He says, just wait until Apple introduces their own Lightning EV connector. It's such a them move to do.
But it is. It's so true. It's so true. They want everything proprietary.
But they won't do that because
finally they've moved to USB-C on I got a new MacBook and an iMac. Those are USB-C. But my new iPhone's Lightning. Just make this USB-C. It's so annoying.
Right. My Samsung's USB-C. So
Martin, I agree with you with them wanting to control their whole ecosystem. But I thought about this for a while over the last couple of years while they were on again, off again. I think that they will realize that this is different than the tech that they make, the iPads and iPods and phones. I think that they're going to step out of their comfort zone and partner with somebody for this, because cars are a totally different beast than personal electronic devices. And I think that they'll do that. I think maybe if Jobs was still around, he might not, I think because he was so entrenched in that mindset. But I think that they're able to now say, okay, this is a totally different beast. We can make so much money if we do this right and we partner with the right brand, and that's what I expect them to do. But we'll see.
Right on. So let's move it along. Unless anyone had something else I wanted to say about that. No. Okay. So the Jeep Gladiator created a ton of excitement when it debuted in Los Angeles, the auto show back in 2018. And now it may bring some of that excitement to the plug-in crowd with the 4xe model. This, of course, comes on the heel of the Wrangler 4xe going on sale in the US. That vehicle gets a 400-volt, 17 kilowatt-hour lithium pack under the second row seats there for 25 miles of EPA range. Not great, but it's not, obviously not a very aerodynamic vehicle, and yeah, it is what it is. So together with the 2.0 turbocharged engine and with 2 electric motors, it scoots from 0 to 60 in 6 seconds. So that's what's going to be inside this Jeep Gladiator, we imagine. So that's pretty cool. I don't know how hot you guys are about the Gladiator. I kind of like it. I've seen one in person. Did some work hauling some stuff away, and an owner of one, wasn't afraid to get his scratched up and dirty. So, it looks pretty cool up close. But I think the bigger news here is that just after this was posted by our Motor One crew, they also got a statement from the global president of Jeep brand saying that all Jeep models will carry an electrified option in the next few years. So that's
but that goes to mild hybrid. My sister has an electrified Jeep JL. It's a 2-liter with a pancake electric motor on the back of it. And it's a really weird driving car, I think. This plug-in hybrid will be interesting. Actually, what's interesting, I was just talking to our fleet people where, they get us the cars and stuff to review. They handle the logistics of that. And they said, hey, we have a 4xe coming soon. I'm like, really, already? So I guess they're starting to hit fleet sometime soon. Not sure.
Yeah, they should be. I mean, they should be going up to customers any time, I believe.
Yeah. So we're getting one to review, I guess, in the next few weeks, which will be kind of neat.
Yeah, that'd be great. I know many will be unhappy that Jeep is not going all electric like anytime soon, it seems. But is this a good enough situation for Jeep right now? Or, Kyle, do you think they should be taking the likes of Rivian more seriously? Are they going to end up with plug-in hybrids that aren't as attractive to buyers as Rivian has made going all electric look?
I think Rivian's done a great job of making all electric look awesome. But I am decreasingly excited about the potential of electrification in adventure vehicles, especially moving out here to the West, as separate from North Carolina, where there is tons of space for me to go to Moab. I could spend 2 days just exploring Moab, not seeing another person, not seeing a single electrical wire. I think plug-in hybrids work really well for that scenario. I still think a full battery electric is limiting in what you can do with the vehicle. And certainly, I don't know if there's anyone who pushes the limits harder than me and Tom with doing things, going cross country, showing you can go anywhere with an EV, but I'm not so sure you can go anywhere with an EV quite yet. So I think the plug-in hybrid route's great. What I'd love to see is an i3 situation. Put in the biggest battery pack you possibly can, and then give me a backup generator that I might use once every month or two, which is really the, I think, ideal use case for something like this. Because we're doing, it's just hard to carry around extra batteries. They're so heavy. Like a spark charge, you can't really pick them up if you stack them. Great idea, but they're only 3 kilowatt hours, right? Something really small.
Right. So this is pretty cool. So Kyle, so basically, electric manufacturers are going to have to convince you that their product can do what you need it to do. So, hey, Martin, can you scroll way down and find that little video from Twitter, the Rivian R1T off-road from RJ? RJ Scaringe, the founder and CEO of Rivian, posted this video on the weekend. If you haven't seen it, I guess you'll see it here. But it's just, I thought it was pretty cool, and I just threw it in the list of things because just for like a palate cleanser, we didn't really have a story about it. It just looks pretty awesome. But fresh up on the site, on the Inside EV site today, is there's a 10-minute or so video of the Rebel Rally, which is the cross country. Right here's the thing, like snowy mountain roads. I mean,
that's in Colorado.
Right. It'll handle that part, no problem, it looks like. But that's not really your worries. But
no questions about the capability of the vehicles. Right. I think they'll be more capable than combustion vehicles. It's just going to be, can you get up there and not worry about it?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if you go and watch this video, the Rebel Rally video, it's pretty great. So they're out in the desert for, I forget how long it is, days and days. And they're, it's like navigating without GPS and it's all women as well. It's an all-woman event.
That's super neat. I love the Rebel Rally.
Yeah, I really like the concept. I'm a little jealous. So they're talking with one of the Rivian guys in that, and he does mention that they're looking at this and trying to figure out, okay, now we need to set up a charging out here, a standalone that's not connected to a grid. And so that's what they're looking at. Like Rivian's going to be making their own charger network, but it's not going to be like an urban. We're going to be out in the boonies, and with non-connected, probably solar charged, and we'll have batteries, I guess. And so that when you go to Moab, you'll have a place to charge, possibly.
Yeah. Well, look, that's the answer. Is can you get meaningful charge rates out in the desert. Now, do they need to be 250 kilowatts, 300 kilowatts? No, because when you're out on an adventure and you're in your Rivian, you can pull out the kitchen thing and make a lunch, right? So I'm not saying, but I do think they need to be 50 kilowatt minimum. So this is tough.
But I don't think that's so much of a problem, because you're pulling all that energy from a battery. There's no charge, extra upcharges for pulling a lot of current at once. So there's no reason to hold back if they have the battery to supply the energy that you want.
Well, look, we're going to be doing it. Look, Dominic, you and I have talked to Rivian about this already. I really want to do an Alaska trip. I want to do Key West to Alaska, show it's possible, but and do this with an adventure style EV, whether it's like a built out Mustang Mach-E or a Rivian, or we take a Model Y. I'm not sure yet, but that I want to do this summer, and I think it's possible, but it's going to be a little tedious. I think Rivian's really killing it. But the one thing I'm not sure if they showed in the Rebel Rally video, I didn't actually watch the video yet, but I did follow the whole event while it was going on, was they brought in an 18-wheeler full of batteries and DC fast chargers to charge the Rivian.
With solar.
With solar. And we're just not going to have that on top of a mountain
but they also brought in a big tanker truck full of gasoline for the other vehicles too. They show that in the Rebel Rally video.
Yeah, but that's much easier than bringing a full giant truck full of batteries and expensive hardware.
And the EV
but it's the cost.
Back up.
Right, but here's the thing. You can put gas in a metal can that costs $2 to make versus having batteries and hundreds of thousands, probably millions of dollars worth of hardware in a truck like the Porsche charging truck they use in Europe. That's got to be a couple $1,000,000 thing.
But then the gasoline is expensive. And then
but you're going to use it no matter what. So the gasoline you're paying for one way or another.
Right. The key is infrastructure. We all probably watched Bjorn Newland's videos, the YouTuber in Norway, and he went to the Arctic. He did a series of videos recently to the Arctic Circle. He went to the top of the country, and he saw kind of the lights and stuff, and just did this epic road trip to the north, where it's minus 20, minus 30 degrees, and then he's plugging into a 50 kilowatt charger, and he's like, okay, here we are, I'll just plug in overnight. And like their infrastructure there, because they're a small country, small car market, very further ahead with EVs. They've just put because everyone's buying EVs. It was 84% odd in January was the plug-in. It was 53% pure BEVs, and the rest were plug-in hybrids. So you're almost into the 90s of new cars sold, and 9 out of 10 cars are plug-in cars. So the infrastructure's there. So it's not a big deal as long as you can plug in. And it's flippant. I say it to everyone. Electricity is everywhere. But that is a flippant thing to say, because as Kyle says, there are adventurers who want to go off-road and go into those places where you're a long way away from anything. So it's, the big batteries are needed and the infrastructure's needed.
Now, there's still lots of challenges, that's for sure. That's right. Hey, so we don't have a whole lot of time, so I just want to hit a few headlines real quick. GM's answer to the Rivian/Amazon delivery van, the Bright Drop EV600, such a sexy name, just got its second customer. FedEx is client number one for this, of course, and they have dibs on the first units. But now Merchants Fleet, who I've never heard of, but they do fleet leasing, is funding and funding as well as other services. And they want to electrify 50% of their fleet by 2030. And so they've put in an order for 12,600 units. So that's just, nice to see. Electric delivery needs to happen sooner than later. And all right, so we've also seen lots of electric developments at Hyundai Motor Group, with the Hyundai Ioniq 5 being revealed in a couple weeks. February 16th actually is the date that I've heard rumors about more recently, but I actually got in touch with Hyundai, and they don't have a firm date yet that they're willing to give out, at least. So nothing directly. Right, and so the Ioniq 5 is coming out soon, and also the Kia Imagine concept, the production version of that, which I believe might be called the Kia EV5, or it could be the EV4 or 6, I don't know, but I'm saying EV5 for now. That's going to be shown soon as well. Well, it seems like the other brand in that corporate bunch is electrifying as well. We've seen a few spy shots, and now we have some news of some nomenclature. So let's start with the GV70E which is not that on the screen now, but we could. Okay,
It's that one.
Is that the one?
That's the G80.
No.
That's
yeah,
G80.
that's the big one.
That's the big one, G80E.
I'm not really super knowledgeable Genesis overall. I mean, I know what it is, and I'm kind of familiar with the cars, but man, I'm just not one I've spent a lot of time with.
So the G80 is the big sedan. That's what you're looking at here. The GV80 is the big SUV, but then they're also going to have a bigger one. Both unbelievably nice, really great cars. We've reviewed them. Genesis is just blowing away expectations in regards of luxury, and I can't wait for them to get electrified because it's the perfect brand to carry electrification for them.
So what I'm thinking though, so if you're looking at this okay, and they're going to be called G70E, G80E, G90E, are these on the EGMP platform? I know one of these spy shots is on the EGM platform.
It must be. All the things we've been told over the years is that the Genesis EVs are going to be on Hyundai's platform.
Okay.
It must be.
Unless they make them look like their combustion counterparts, which then why would you have the same body on two different chassis?
Yeah, that's weird.
It is. I don't know yet. We'll see.
Yeah. Anyway, that's something to keep your eye on for now. Other news. So Tesla cancels the Model Y long-range rear-wheel drive version, which is kind of like the exact opposite of what Elon was saying, I think, last summer or not so long ago, that they weren't going to do the short range or the standard range rear-wheel drive, but now they are, I think. Is that right, Tom?
Yeah, they're just matching Model 3 now.
It's super hard to follow what they're doing because they keep changing back and forth. They weren't going to make the short one because it wasn't long enough. Then we heard they were going to make it. Now they're not going to make the rear-wheel drive long range. Maybe Kyle's been up on this more than I am. I was under the impression that means now they're not making any just rear-wheel drive versions, but maybe they're going to make the short range. Kyle, what's your latest take on this? It's really hard to keep up with Tesla.
Standard range is totally fine for most people. I'm a big fan of getting the right size battery pack for your needs, which is usually smaller than most people realize. And then also, I'm totally fine with the long range being all-wheel drive only, which would be less efficient than rear-wheel drive, long-range rear-wheel drive. But here's the thing. You're getting all-wheel drive and a much bigger battery pack for a, $8,000 difference, something like this? That's a ton more car than the standard plus. And I don't know. I think it's easier to make less variations of vehicles. And I like the idea of a lower price point of standard. So this is how I would have done it. Although I personally, as an enthusiast, would prefer the long-range rear-wheel drive, I think it's the best Model 3. My first one was that, my first Model 3, and loved it. And but this is the move. This is the way to go. I think they're correct in this approach.
Right. I mean, they're not hurting for cash or sales. I mean, they're selling everything they can produce batteries for. So I guess they don't really need a long-range rear-wheel drive version of the Model Y.
Yeah, because if you want a less expensive one, just get a standard range. There's seriously no drive that normal people are going to do on highway interstates that the standard range can't do. You can go anywhere in that car just as you can go anywhere in the dual motor all-wheel drive. And honestly, you're going to be stopping at the same superchargers on a trip because it's not like you're going to be skipping measurable superchargers in the middle of the country. You have to stop at every one anyway.
Right. Hey, so some other Tesla news real quick. They're giving in to NHTSA and they will recall 150,000 vehicles with faulty MCU version 1. That's the infotainment screen thing in the middle, I guess. Or that's the chip that runs it or something.
It's just the memory card that has a multiple read-write operations, makes it fail. So just obviously, I'm a few thousand miles away from you. NHTSA that's a federal body, is that right? So if they
National
say
Highway Transportation Safety Administration. Yeah.
So it's not like they're asking Tesla to do it nicely. If they say jump, then they say how high.
Well, they had.
Is that right?
I think they had put pressure on it. They wanted them to do it, and then Tesla was like being resistant to it. But I guess they've whatever, they're doing it now. So
But in other words, do they have to do it legally? As in, would the government take them to court if they didn't?
I think that they could if they wanted to bad enough.
Okay, right. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not optional. It's not optional. It's not like Tesla can say we don't want to do it.
But I don't know if this got to that point where they were ordered to. I think the NHTSA kind of told Tesla that's going to happen. So Tesla was like, okay, we'll do it. But the biggest question here is a lot of people have paid out of pocket to have this replaced already. And it was a known issue for a long time. What happens to those people? Like I really hope that they get refunds.
Well, the people that have got better technology, they've got the new MCUs, they've got the new hardware that's zippier and faster, the maps, all this. Tesla will say, well, you've got better technology, so you had to pay anyway. But I imagine there were people that...
the new one.
They were upsold. So they won't get a refund. But what about the people... Like, could you just pay just for the memory card? Or did you have to have the whole unit replaced?
So from Tesla, you had to pay $2,500 for a whole MCU. You could go to Electrified Garage and they would remove the MCU, pop out the chip, pop a new one on, and this was like $1,200. But that was the least expensive one. Then they came out with anyone with MCU 1 could upgrade to MCU 2 through Tesla for a paid fee of, I think, $2,500. Then they said, oh, if you had FSD, that's free. So it got really confusing. So there's a ton of people not only who have paid to upgrade the chip, right, who potentially could file and get a refund for their service appointment. But what about the people who have paid to upgrade to MCU 2? They're out of luck because their chip didn't fail. They got the newer screen, but they did it because of this chip. But once this chip goes, your car's bricked. You just can't drive it. So you'll notice like the screen glitch out here or there, or things will happen. It starts to slow down, and it's like, get that car to a service center because it will not boot up once it goes.
Yeah. And a lot of people paid out of pocket. So, the one thing about Tesla, and they might do the right thing here. They might offer refunds to the people. We don't know that yet. But, we've said this time and time again. One of the biggest problems with Tesla is communication. It's so hard to get a straight answer out of Tesla. Like, any other OEM would have a clear process and a procedure. It would be an announcement would be made. You'd be able to look at it on the website. All the owners would get letters. Tesla does a lot of things right. I've owned 2 Teslas. Kyle's owned a bunch of them. We're Tesla supporters and lovers here, but you got to call them out on certain things. Things like this, it's so hard to figure out what's going to happen to you and how to get information. They have to start acting like a grown-up company and do better with communication. Their communication is terrible, Tesla.
And they did that by firing their PR department, so they're off on a good start.
Yeah, customer service is, this kind of business, that's where, everything, once all the hardware and the software and all that's sorted out, customer service is just a huge thing,
So I just want to say, we do have somebody posting a comment saying, stop saying might. I just said they might get a refund. They said they will refund. I haven't seen that yet. We'll take that. We'll look into that comment, and hopefully it's correct.
Yeah, but they might get a refund if they replaced the MCU 1 for another MCU 1. But what if they upgraded to MCU 2 in fear of the MCU 1 chip failing?
Right. All this should be laid out. It should be very clear. If you have a Model S, or if you have a car with this issue, click here, and everything laid out. If this happened, if that's happened, this is what we'll do for you. This is what we won't do for you, and you just don't get that with Tesla. And people. It's really frustrating, they have to get better at communication, Tesla.
True.
But they won't. So
you're probably right, Kyle, but at some point it's going to hurt them. It hasn't hurt them yet.
Right.
At some point it's going to hurt them.
Right. So a couple more Tesla items real quick. The refreshed Tesla Model S and the X steering yoke, that's that thing. Has been approved in the Netherlands, and I believe also the UK. Is that right, Martin? Have you heard about that? I haven't seen that yet.
I've seen nothing. I've seen lots of people post stuff on social media and sound very knowledgeable, like they should know what they're talking about, or they make statements of fact.
Right.
I've seen no proof. I've seen lots of people have tweeted me to go, hey, it's legal in the UK now, and I'm like, source, link. I'll happily read something from the government, anything. But nobody can provide it. It could be true. I don't know.
Right. It's still a super controversial thing. A lot of people still saying, even traditional media auto writers are still saying that it's impossible because of this or that without. I don't know.
I think it helps that they have the bottom bit. A lot of auto journalists are assuming that you just have the two things on the side.
Right.
I'm not defending this wheel because I personally think it's really stupid, but I think it's going to help in U-turn situations that they've at least done a full U. You'll have the bottom to hold on to going around. So again, I think this is dumb. I think there's no reason to reinvent the wheel, but pun, and whatever. I just think this is. First off, I don't think it looks good. I think it looks silly.
Koala, look at it, man.
I don't like anything
big
about
koala
it.
nose
It just
and
looks
eyes.
like it's missing thumbs. It looks like it. It's just got nubs up there. I don't know.
I have a friend that ordered the new Model S with that yoke, supposedly.
Okay.
And he's supposed to take possession in about a month. And if he does, he doesn't live in my state. He lives actually far away. I am going to immediately fly to where he is and drive the thing and review it. So we'll see.
I would add as well the story about it being approved in the Netherlands. Let's assume that the authorities there have looked at it, tested it, and gone, yes, it's safe.
Right.
The story is they read their regs as they have written at the minute and are like, we can't find a reason why it wouldn't be.
Right.
And that's a subtle difference. That's different to, actually, is this wheel safe to use? And I think that's the case in the UK, I think, in that by the letter of the law, it's not illegal, but no, can I have a normal steering wheel, please, if that's an option? Even if it's a paid option, please just give me a normal one.
I need to drive it myself personally before I really pass judgment on it because I really don't know how it's in real life, how it's going to work. I have a hard time believing that they would put a useless kind of steering wheel in a car that's, they're like their Halo car, but we'll see. But other Tesla news I want to hit real quick is the Model Y production at Giga Berlin is apparently supposed to start in mid-2021, so this summer.
Yep.
So that's kind of neat. And that's going to be the front section and the back section married with the middle section Model Y. And yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see that car in Europe. And a lot of European, they haven't gotten the Model Y yet, right? There's no Model Ys in Europe.
Now the design studio went live either yesterday or the day before for left-hand drive markets. So that I would assume that means that you can, if you're in Germany, France, Spain, you can now order one. And when they make them in Berlin, that'll come to you. I don't think that means they're going to come from China or the US. Interestingly, no news on right-hand drive markets, but we've largely, so the UK and Ireland are largely ignored now. So we'll get no new stock of anything apart from Model 3 for the entire calendar year here. So, and we're not a small car market, but that's interesting.
No. Yeah.
So there'll be no S's, no X's till 2020. It still says delivery 2022 on the new S and X, and Model Y. I don't know. We'll wait and see. But
that should help
imagine
the used market.
Yeah, like the used market's strong here.
Right on. All right. So let's move along. Oh, we're just about out of time, but just want to hit a couple of things really quick. If you go on the Inside EV's website, you'll see there's a new Irish company called Ava. They're working on a. They've got Peter Brock, who was a famous car designer. He designed the original Corvette C2 Stingray. That was like 1963 to 67. The Daytona Cobra, the original Shelby Mustangs, and he's been teamed up with Ian Callum from formerly of Jaguar. He did the I-Pace most recently, and a lot of other well-known vehicles. So they're building this like hyper classic, they're calling it. So it's going to look a lot like the original C2 design. I believe Peter Brock is designing that part. Then Ian Callum will come after him and make it more market friendly, production friendly. I don't know. And that's going to be up to like 1,200 to 2,000 horsepower. I don't know. This is still early stages, but it's just something kind of interesting to see coming up. And I believe they're teaming with Cascadia in the U.S., who make like supply electric motors and inverters and different things like that, electric vehicle components. All right, what else we got real quick? Oh, I don't know if you have it real quick, but the Lynk&Co ZERO EV interior has been teased. That's a Chinese car from Geely-owned Lynk&Co. And I put this on this because I like their styling language. It's not coming here anytime soon.
This looks very cool.
Right.
Let me bring that up. Nice. Lots of
Pretty
ambient
okay.
lighting.
They got the
Looks cool.
Model 3-ish looking kind of thing.
Yeah,
but
that's a steering wheel from an I-Pace every day of the week.
Yeah, I was about to say that's a Jag wheel with a Tesla screen with a mini, but it's got the mini. I don't know if you've been in some of the higher spec mini, like a F56 Mini Cooper. They have this same exact lighting on their dash, so it's like a hodgepodge of the greatest hits of automotive.
Is that a Lexus gear shifter?
It's a Lexus gear shifter. And it's got Mazda switches below the screen. I have a new Mazda. It's the same switches.
Oh, sweet.
Brilliant.
Wow.
Hodgepodge.
Can we hit play on that just to show them a bit more? Yeah, it's like a minute long. We can run that while we're talking about other things. So the GMC Hummer EV is been delayed slightly. I think we're still going to see it in this month, but it's and I didn't even write out all the notes for it, so I'm not exactly sure when it was. I forget. Oh, Super Bowl. We were thinking maybe we were going to see it at the Super Bowl, but it's going to be a little later than that, I think.
Everyone in Miami is depressed hearing that.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and other news, other manufacturer, NIO started 2021 with another sales record. They've had like 6 months of like steady increases. Like if you go to that report on the Inside EVs, you can see their sales over the last few years. They kind of started off good, then they had a rocky thing in 2019, and now they're like taking off, and so is their stock. And that's a really an interesting company to keep an eye on. We talk about them a lot here. Yeah, and I think those are the big stories of the week, really. So that brings us to the end of our show.
Wait, I have to make one more comment.
Sorry.
I'm so sorry. I wanted to end the show with this. Okay. All I've been doing for the last 7 days since the Model S was released, or 8 days, is every time I move a car, I'm wondering, how is the Model S going to know what direction I want to go in? It has consumed my mental ability to drive.
Awesome. That's interesting. I should...
Yeah.
It'll just know. It'll just know.
Yeah. It'll just know, right?
Don't question it. Don't question it.
It's the
Arcimoto
AI, right?
should put that tech in that thing and let you take it for a ride. Cal.
Oh my God, that would be the scariest thing ever.
Just sit there and let it go where you want to go.
But we're gonna. The fascinating thing is, this is not a presentation with this car's coming out in 3 years' time, which means 5 years' time. This is, as Tom just said, we're delivering the cars. Is it this month? We're in February now, so yeah. So we're delivering these cars.
I just have to say, I backed into the garage yesterday in the Model 3 because Alyssa came home from work, and I backed it in, and all of the backup cameras failed and the whole screen went black. And I'm like, if the Model S is going to do this, is it just going to go forwards at full speed randomly? Like, who knows? It is all consuming, all of this gear changing stuff, but I think it's going to be hilarious. I'm going to do a whole video on the Model S getting the gear selection process wrong. I want to see if I can confuse it and just go wherever the car thinks it needs to go.
Oh.
Drive around town in reverse.
Coach Jay chimes in on the comments here with some saying both countries, like talking about the Netherlands and the UK, said that the safety of the wheel will be evaluated. So, yeah, jury's still out, and jury's still out for me too. I need to drive it to see exactly what's going on, and there'll be the optional regular round wheel for those who whatever don't want to try out this. So, right, the gear level should be mandatory. Yeah,
should be.
Right,
should be.
They need a failsafe on the screen. The screen should not be going black when they're that important to cars now. I mean, this can't happen. They need a failsafe. So I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. If you have any comments about any of the topics on today's show, you can comment on the Inside EVs podcast post, the YouTube comment section, or on the Inside EVs forum podcast thread. Don't forget, you can find and follow our panelists on Twitter. Tom Mologney is at Tomolog. Martin Lee is at EV News Daily. Kyle Connor is at Out of Spec, and I'm at Dominic_Y. Click subscribe and tap that bell icon for notifications, and we'll see you all again next week. Ciao.